So much for a quiet reading month. Welcome to my March TBR. This is jumping straight into roll of reads from a book fiend named Mel. She has a readathon going on this month to celebrate her birthday. So first off, happy birthday to Mel. So happy to be able to take place in your readathon. So roll of reads is essentially loosely based on Dungeons and Dragons, except with this game you have a series of prompts, and we're just setting that up now. And you'll see these little piles that have R and P, are rewards and punishments. And so the idea is if you roll a 20, then you get a reward card, and if you roll a 1 or if you roll three numbers in a row, then you get a punishment, if that makes sense. So they've got to be the same numbers in a row. And so we're just laying out the prompts now. So let me know if anyone else is taking part in roll of reads. I would love to know what your TBR is for this one. I'm hoping for a relatively easy roll in this one. We have a chance to get 8 books for that, and that would be a bit overwhelming. So we're just about to do it here. And as you see, I got 4. So that's okay, we can handle that. And so now we roll the D20, and that came up to 14 as our first number. And so how I'm doing it is I'm going from the top left to the bottom right. And there we stopped at 14. And that's a blind pick.
So as you saw, the first roll that we got was a 14, and that correlated with blind pick. And so with that one, you could either go to your Goodreads or you could go to your shelf, close your eyes and pick a book. So we're going to do that. This is my bookshelf, and this bottom layer here and the top layer there are books that I have not read. And so we will pick from that. I will be avoiding this middle shelf here because these are all the books that I have read and am keeping. So let's close my eyes. Oh gosh, why is this so scary? And 3, 2, 1. This one. It feels like a mid book. Feels like a middle of the. Is that a Tomb of Hercules that we never read before? So you guys get the first look. I hope I'm putting this the right way. And it is. Oh, I got it right. It's the Tomb of Hercules.
So as you saw for my blind pick, the book that we got was The Tomb of Hercules by Andy McDermott. And you saw this in my January TBR, and I didn't read it, but this month it is going to be a priority. This follows Nina, who is an archaeologist, and she believes that she's found evidence through all of her studies that the tomb of the warrior Hercules does actually exist. And so she goes off and tries to find that. And as she's searching with her ex-SAS bodyguard, uh-huh, um, she realizes that they are not the only ones that are looking for this tomb. And so they race against the clock to find it first and stop any treasure from falling into the wrong hands. As I mentioned in January, this gives me Lara Croft vibes with the racing against the clock, and the tomb and the treasure and all of that good stuff. And it just sounds like it's going to be such a good time. And so I am here for it. Number two, we got a book that was published in the year that you were born. And hopefully you will all forget this quick enough, but I was born in the year 1991, and we won't discuss what age that makes me. But I have chosen Outlander by Diana Gabaldon, I believe is how you pronounce that name. Fantastic series. Neon um, over here. Loved it. I need to do a rewatch of this, but I haven't read the book yet. And I am slightly intimidated to read the book, to be completely honest. This is 863 pages. So that's a mammoth, and it is March of the Mammoths. This will be, hopefully, my only mammoth book of the month. But I am so looking forward to it. So, the Outlander series. This is a chunky book about a woman from 1945 named Claire, and on a second honeymoon with her husband, she is transported to Scotland. When is it? 1743. That's quite a time jump. Um, for whatever magical reason, she ends up in Scotland in the 1700s, and as an outsider or an outlander, or oh, Sassenach, Sassenach. I'm not Scottish. As an outlander, she now has to navigate her way through this land, and in doing so, she finds Jamie, who is compassionate and loving, and he's a warrior, and they just, fall in love, and it's quite. I think it's going to be quite a political book, especially like the whole series. It's going to be quite political. Um, it's going to be war torn, romance, all of that really good stuff. And while she's there, she's got to kind of grapple with the fact that she's still a married woman to a guy, what, 200 years, um, 200 years in time ahead of where she is now. So, yeah, it'll be really interesting and really fun. I am immersion reading this. I have the audiobook on Audible, and obviously I have the physical book. So I will be immersion reading this. I don't know how I'm going to get through it without it, but we'll see. So for roll number 3, we got takes place on an island, and for that one, I chose the Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Um, and here's the thing. I don't think I can really summarize this book very well. I'm totally blind to it. The only thing I know is that it's told through the eyes of a young prince who trained with not with Hercules. It's told through the eyes of a young prince who trained with Achilles. Um, and obviously, this story, it's a retelling of Troy, kind of like following Achilles' perspective, but without being told by Achilles. I don't know. I've heard this is amazing. I've heard great things about it. There's a couple of people I think I've seen that didn't really like it, so it'll be interesting to see where I fall on the scale for that one. But I'm really looking forward to this. It's been on my radar for such a long time, and I'm finally getting around to it. Um, and yeah, this one also sets as my prompt for Bookemon as Legendary Sword #2 as being a retelling of Troy. And so that is the Song of Achilles. Fourth and final role of reads was the physical or mental health representation. And for that one, I chose The Bone Collector by Jeffrey Deaver. And this also serves as my bone prompt for Bookemon with a bone on the cover. And The Bone Collector follows Lincoln Rhyme, who is a criminologist, and one day he gets into a horrible accident, and that has left him severely mentally and physically scarred. Um, but there's a new serial killer that is on the loose who, quote, strips life down to the bone. Um, and so he works with a local detective, and they figure out clues to where the serial killer is. And along the way, they uncover quite a dark piece of history in New York's history. Um, and so hopefully within all of that, they will stop the killer. I've watched the movie and I enjoyed the movie. As of making this video, I have started listening to it on Audible and I need to give it a chance, but the guy who narrates it is bad. Really, really bad. It's like AI is trying to impersonate a human and not doing it very well. But the idea of it is really intriguing, and I'm hoping as the story goes along, things will get better and perhaps I will forget the narrator. Fingers crossed. So for the tale from Two Trails this month, we got really lucky with our prompts because they are very interchangeable with other things. So everything that I say except for the last book will be able to cross reference with other prompts from other readathons. And so the first one for that uh, was random animal generator, and Kim, bless her, got fire-bellied frog. Um, and luckily we didn't actually have to have the frog in the book because the one book that I could find that had a fire-bellied frog looked boring as anything. Um, so it could be inspired by the frog, and with the colorings of the fire-bellied frog, and I'll leave a picture up here. I decided to go with The Sandman by Neil Gaiman because, first of all, the coloring of the frog is quite dark and the cover is very dark, and the cover of The Sandman is quite fiery, um, which ties in with fire. Um, and Morpheus, who's the main character in The Sandman, he has to go to hell in order to retrieve one of his tools. So the plot of The Sandman is, and this will be my very first graphic audio, so I'm so excited about this one. But this follows Lord Morpheus, who is aka Dream, aka the Sandman. And he's trapped and imprisoned for quite a long time on Earth. And because of this, the dream world starts to deteriorate, and nightmares are running loose and free. Um, and so once he escapes his prison, the tools that hold his power have been stolen and split up across all of these different worlds and all of these different peoples. And so he's got to search for these tools, one of them being in hell. But as I've said, nightmares are released, and so they're doing everything that they can to stop Lord Morpheus from coming back into power. And it's my understanding that this is going to be a massive cast with music and different actors. I believe James McAvoy is the actor who is playing Dream, and that's that's pretty cool. It's it's just going to be amazing. I've got such high expectations for this, but at the same time, I just want to be open to be taken for a ride. So that is going to be really fun. I can't wait for that one. So the next one that Kim got was a random letter generator, and she got M. And so that could have been M in the title, like the beginning of the title of the book, starting with M, or the surname of the author. And it had to be the surname of the author, and that would count for that prompt. And so I chose The Tomb of Hercules by Andy McDermott. And I don't know, cast your votes in the comments below and tell me, do you think the McDermott counts, the M? Do you think that counts, or do you think I need to choose another one? And if you do, comment quickly because these need to be read by the 25th. So for the third book, the third prompt that she got was dual perspective, and I got a really easy one for that one, which was Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, and this fulfills quite a few different prompts. So we've got Bookemon, which it fulfills the ball prompt, which is a toy or sport equipment on the cover, and Nathan is holding his hockey stick. And there's also both Anastasia and Nathan are wearing their skates, which I consider to be equipment. And at the same time, I will also be buddy reading this with Laura from the book Hermit. So shout out to Laura. And this book follows Anastasia, who is passionate, absolutely passionate about representing Team USA at the Olympics for figure skating. And it also follows Nate, who is kind of like a can do, easygoing, problem solving kind of bloke who is the captain of the local hockey team. And through a mishap, the two end up practicing in the same rink as each other, and then Anastasia's figure skating partner gets hurt, and so naturally they end up teaming up together. And she's not entirely happy about it, but he's keen for it to happen and to help her succeed. Um, I've got it written here in my script. So Nate steps up, swapping out his uniform for sparkly tights. And I know this has garnered some contention in BookTube lately. Like, people either love it or they hate it. So it will be really interesting to see where I land on this. Again, as of filming it, I'm currently on the 4th of March. I am actually quite liking it so far. I'm up to chapter 12. The partner hasn't got hurt yet, but the partner's a douche, so I hope he gets hurt really soon. Yes, I said that. Um, yeah, I'm here for it. It's a chill time. It's brainless. Don't need to think about it. It's good. And so that was a lot of different prompts. We had Tale from Two Trails, Bookemon, Buddy Read. And so the group book for the month is one that I have wanted to get to after hearing about it from Alex Blackreed, and that is Homegoing by Gyasi. And I don't know a whole lot about this novel. I know it spans over about 300 years with two sisters in the 1700s, I believe, going from Ghana to America. And throughout this story, it's completely split up into two lives. One of them has all the riches, and then one of them is sold into slavery. And then I think as time goes on, the wheels kind of turn on them, where the one who is sold into slavery, their family ends up being quite well off, and then the one who had all the riches and married into a well-to-do family, I think after reading the synopsis, she doesn't end up, or her family doesn't end up doing so well. And so having that juxtaposition there about what originally happened to them and how their family developed over time sounds like such an interesting read to me, and I'm really, really looking forward to reading it. And so we also had a couple of activities or challenges, and the challenge prompt that Team A got was to have a cozy reading night, and challenge prompts are open to everyone to get points for. And so just for having a cozy reading night, I can earn 2 points for Team B, which is easy enough. I have a cozy reading night every night. That's fine. That'll be easy to get. Easy 2 points. And so Team B's activity was associated with the last prompt, was to make two of the characters from the book. So for me, it would be Anastasia and Nate. and I guess there's kind of creative liberty with that one. You could either draw it, or Kim suggested um, doing a book stack, and she has a great video on what she did with that one. There's creative liberties on way to do that. And that is the one prompt I'm not looking forward to. But we'll try it. So for Bookemon, I'm going to start doing some of these seasonal prompts. And for Lantern, that is to read a 250 plus page book in a cozy spot. So that also translate to the cozy reading challenge of Tale from Two Trails. And so for this one, I am reading the very first book in the True Blood series called Dead Until Dark by Charlene Harris. And I'm really excited to get to this. I just binged the True Blood series on TV again, and I loved that. I mean, look, I've got a soft spot for vampires. Anybody who knows me well knows that, and that hasn't changed for quite a long time. When those vampires come in the form of Alexander Skarsgård, you've got me. You've totally got me. Um, and so this is actually the Sookie Stackhouse Chronicles, and it follows Sookie Stackhouse as she wanders through the world, being quite different from everybody else. She can read people's mind and is quite unnerving for everyone, including herself. And there are some days where she would just like to not have that ability, to have a quiet night. And when a vampire walks into the restaurant that she works at, she gets just that. She cannot hear vampires' thoughts. And so she gets to know this vampire and becomes a part of their world, and all sorts of different antics start happening, and discovers that there's actually more to the world than even she knows. So it's going to be interesting. I'm expecting this to be a really quick read. It's like 300 pages, 326 pages. So this will be my brainless dump after Icebreaker. And so for the Fireflies prompt, which is to have a book with a bright cover, I have chosen False Hearts by Laura Lamb, and I reckon that's a pretty bright cover. It's it's shiny, it's bright, it's a beautiful silver, and this follows conjoined twins Tama and Tila, who escape from growing up in a cult, and this cult doesn't believe in modern medicine and denies them any kind of access to modern technology or anything like that. And so they run away to San Francisco, and they end up having surgery to disconnect themselves, I believe, is separate. They separate from each other, um, and they're given artificial hearts in order to survive. And so, 10 years after that fact, Tila is arrested for murder, and they suspect that she's taken a really powerful drug that, quote, allows violent minds to enact their darkest desires in a terrifying dreamscape. And so there's a whole, like, kind of sci-fi. Where is it on here? Somebody blurbed this as Inception meets something else. Picked this up on a whim from an op shop, and it actually, the more I think about it, the more it sounds right up my alley. So that'll be really interesting. So for Magic Wand 3, this book is a story about wishes, and that is the Five Wishes of Mr. Murray McBride by Joe Sipple. And this book follows a centenarian who befriends a terminally ill 10-year-old boy. And he has a list of all the things that he wants to do before he dies. And so the pair kind of race against time, trying to fulfill as many of those dreams and wishes as possible. Um, and it serves as a heartwarming and heartbreaking trip down memory lane before tragedy eventually strikes. I think that one is going to be quite a hard hitter, um, but really one worth reading. So that will be really interesting. And once I've finished that, I will have my magic wand finished. So for volcanic rock, I am going to be using the read along that I'm co hosting with Nicole, Alex, and Alex. And that is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. I will be using Nicole as the host for that one. And please come and join this read along if you haven't already. If you haven't seen my announcement video for that, go and watch it. Go and watch all the other announcement videos for that. But briefly, The Picture of Dorian Gray is a story about a man obsessed with vanity and sin. And he wants to stay young and beautiful forever. And so, in doing that, he sells his soul and gets this painting that grows old and grows ugly while he doesn't. And so, that's pretty much what this story is about. Definitely go and have a look at all of our channels for all the information. Join our story graph, join our read along. Hopefully, we will see you there. So, for the monthly Bookemon for March, it is to read a book that you know nothing about, and that one I will be reading Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. And as the prompt suggests, I know absolutely nothing about this book, and I'm going to go into this blind. I cannot tell you anything about this book. I'm sorry. But the only thing I know is that people really love it. And a lot of people really love Brandon Sanderson's work. I've never read a Brandon Sanderson in my life. And so this will be my introduction, and I'm hoping it's a good introduction. I'm a little bit nervous, a little bit excited. I'm a bit of both. I don't really know what to expect because, yeah, I'm going into this one completely blind. Now, the one other book that I wanted to talk to you about, I, if I have time, I will include it. It has just come from the library, and that is Divine Rivals. And for that one, I will be reading for the prompt, I believe it's Telescope. And that is to read a book with a night sky on the cover. So I will be reading that for that. Hopefully, I can get to that this month, but it's a bit lower down on the priority list for me. And again, I'm kind of going into Divine Rivals book blind. I know there's a rivals to lovers trope there, and it's got these magic typewriters, and there's a war with gods, and the couple are writing typed messages to each other, but they don't know it's them, and in real life they hate each other, and all of that kind of drama that's going on. And so I will get to that if I can, and if not, that's fine. And so that's it for my March TBR. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Have you read any of these books? Will you read any of these books? Um, and which book would you like me to read next that you've heard me mention? Make sure you turn on notifications, you give me a like and subscribe and comment and all that stuff. Because in the next couple of weeks, I have a very, very exciting announcement that is coming, and I'm really excited and I can't wait to do it. So that'll be coming in the next couple of weeks. So make sure you stay tuned in for that. And that is it for this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good day. Have a good night from wherever you are in the world. Bye bye.